Joseph gets a new start, but how does he keep his equilibrium despite the weight of success and prosperity? What can we learn from Joseph's example? Now, there are 4 things that would take me about 40 minutes to develop, so I'm going to share with you one basically that breaks down into a couple of things. Here's the big deal. How do you keep your spiritual equilibrium when you experience power, success, privilege? Never forget, Joseph always remembered, it's not about me. It's never about us. It's always about God. We see that in Joseph. How many times is Joseph like, can you interpret a dream? And what does he say? No, I can't, God can. That's the thing. It's not about me. It's about God. In your life, in all that you do, how often are you saying, last week, how many times did you say, I can't, God can? You're facing a problem at work. And you don't just say, okay, how can I figure this out? You say, I can't, God can. You're facing financial difficulties. Oh, I've got to work this out. How about I can't, God can? Struggling with your kids. Oh, I've got to work that. No, what about I can't, God can for his glory? That's the attitude of Joseph. We'll talk more about that in a devotional I'll do this week. When you start to say, it's not about me, I can't, God can, then you start to look at all that you do. You take a look at your career, you take a look at your success, take a look at your prosperity, and you say, it's not about me, it's about serving God. It doesn't matter if I'm in prison or in the palace, it's not about me, it never has been, never will be. That's how you keep your stability, I think. See, success, Joseph, I think, understands, is not a place where you arrive. It is a continual journey of daily obedience to God wherever you are. Notice what happens with verse 46. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh the king of Egypt. Joseph left Pharaoh's presence and traveled throughout the land of Egypt. During the 7 years of abundance of the land produced outstanding harvest. Joseph gathered all the excess food in the land of Egypt during those 7 years and put it in the cities, and he put food in every city from the fields around it. Power and position didn't go to Joseph. It didn't destroy Joseph because Joseph understood it's not about my power. It's not about my promotion. It's about how do I do what God wants me to do with the opportunity and the responsibility that he's given. I need to now actually do something to honor God with my opportunity. I love the old story that Catholic priest tells of golfing with his Protestant minister friend. He says they're on the first hole and he's putting for birdie. It's like a 20-foot birdie, and he gets up to it and he crosses himself, hits it, goes right in the middle of the cup. The Protestant minister friend has a shorter putt, steps up, strokes it, wide left. Goes to the next hole. This time the priest has like this 25-foot putt. It's got a couple of bends in it. He hits it. Sure enough, by the way, before that, he crosses himself. Sure enough, perfect putt. Protestant minister, shorter putt, 15-foot putt. Should be an easy putt. Hits the thing, wide right. This happens over and over and over. One guy getting a birdie after crossing himself, one guy getting a bogey after not crossing himself. So finally, the Protestant minister, he said, just got fed up, and he thought to himself, maybe there's something to this whole thing. So once again, the Catholic priest has a 35-foot putt. Again, like 3 bends in it. He looks it up, sizes it up, crosses himself, strokes it. I mean, just like the perfect pace, the perfect line. Dead center cup, birdie. Protestant minister gets up, shorter putt, very makeable 10-foot putt. Kind of looks around and he says, okay, maybe there's something to this. He crosses himself, hits it, comes up short. Priest comes over, puts his arm around him and says, buddy, let me tell you something. It doesn't help a lick if you can't putt. It doesn't help Joseph a lick if he can't lead. He finds himself in this position. It doesn't matter if he's not ready to make a difference, to produce results. Joseph's promotion is not about Joseph. It's about serving God as holy work. Years ago, we would have used a label for this called the Protestant work ethic. It's not talked about much these days unless it's talked about in some kind of negative terms. The Protestant work ethic grew up in the 16th century because in the Middle Ages, the church began to teach, there's this diversion, there's this bifurcation of the holy and the secular. That there is holy work. In fact, the word vocation, it comes from the Latin, which means calling. And so the church taught there are callings. So if you work in the church, if you're a priest or a nun or a monk or something like that, that's a holy calling. But other work isn't holy. It's just kind of profane. It's secular. And the reformers came along, the Luthers and the Calvins, and they read the Bible and said, that's not what the Bible teaches. They'd read places like Colossians 3:23, and it says, whatever you do, do it from your heart as something done for the Lord, not for people. Knowing you'll receive the reward of an inheritance from the Lord, you serve the Lord Christ. No clergy distinction, no laity clergy distinction. Is that what I said? No secular profane line, no separation, you might say, of church and work. All work is holy to God if it is ethical and done for Him, to honor Him. So preachers would go around saying things like, your shop as well as your chapel is holy ground. Remember Pilgrim's Progress, John Bunyan? He said in farming, the milk house, the stable, the barn is where he experiences God. It's why modern science grew up out of that time, because Christians realized there's not a separation between God and creation. Science and God go together. One Anglican priest preached, God provides the good things of work by the labors of the plowman, the skill and pains of the artisan, and the dangers and traffic of the merchant. These men are in their callings, vocations, the ministers of divine providence. If you know anything about economics, you know the name Adam Smith. He had a biblical world view of economics and work, which is why he's not popular with many today. Adam Smith said, in our work, we glorify God by participating in His providence. In ethical work, he said, we work to cooperate with the deity and to advance as far as possible, as far as in our power, the plan of providence. That's Joseph's attitude. This is what I want you to understand. This is the reason to put this time into this. Joseph understood what I am doing is because the Lord is with me and for His glory. I can't, but God can. And it didn't matter. And this is what gave him stability no matter where he was. It doesn't matter if Joseph is a slave in prison or in the palace. His attitude toward work does not change. I have responsibility, I have opportunity right now, and it's all for the glory of God. Mother Teresa was right when she said, I'm just a humble pencil in the hand of God being used to write a love letter to the world. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, it's for the glory of God. Here's one of the ironies of our time. You realize our generation has moved back to the Middle Ages. We think we're progressive. But the reality is, you know how most people think today? There's a bifurcation. Yeah, there's holy work that's done in the church, but my work isn't holy. And it kind of makes me sad. I hear people who are like handymen or, the car repair people or whatever. They're like, oh, I wish I could do something more spiritual. I wish I could do more ministry that's useful for God. And I'm thinking, if you're a handyman coming to my house to do work, there's one thing you know about home repairs. I am to home repairs what Michael Jordan was to baseball. You don't want me involved in it. If you come to my house and you repair things, you are the hand of God. Okay, you are a blessing doing the ministry of God. Please understand, your work is God's work. If you are young, don't ever let somebody tell you there's dignified work and there's not dignified work. It doesn't matter if you are shoveling manure for a farm or for the President of the United States. It's all dignified. It's all the same in God's eyes in value. Joseph never lost his bearings in prison or in the palace because he kept that perspective. It's not about me. It's not about my position. It's not about my opportunity. It's about honoring God in all that I do. I really think that could change many people's lives if you could just see your life as God does. All of it is to be holy to him.